Good hello and welcome back to another exciting evening of Wargaming Apathy Whenever. I'm Jonathan. We got Cal here tonight, just the two of us, so a bit of a more relaxed show tonight as opposed to last week, which was super exciting with our good friend Marcus on. Man, that was such
That
a
was
good
a
show
good
last.
show.
That was great. We're not going to be able to top that this week, but we do have some exciting things going on. There's some interesting news that's out that I'm sure Cal has all of the opinions on.
Oh, there's some golden stuff that's happened this week.
Oh, it's spicy. And of course, I had a game which we're going to talk about, and Cal is going to critique every mistake that I made. And then in Over Under, we're going to either be nerfing one of my favorite models ever made, and by nerfing I mean improving because it's already pretty bad, or we're going to improve, and by improve I mean nerf. See, I'm getting everything backwards, and am I doing it intentionally? I don't know. One of my most hated units in the game at the moment.
Luckily, you have the core keyword.
This is true. It does have everything has core. Everything is core, Callum.
For one CP, you can try that sentence again.
No. I will just get my free reroll of that sentence from the Silent King because everything is core.
What
but
was?
On to games. So, I had a game on Sunday against our ever favorite Christopher. And he didn't play Thousand Suns this time.
Which I'm guessing was quite refreshing.
It was very refreshing
to not run into a wall of rubrics.
It was very nice not to run into a wall of rubrics. Instead, it was a wall of Smurfs. And by Smurfs, I mean Ultramarines.
So the actual Smurfs.
So actual Smurfs. And look, they did not have iron within or without. We ripped them open, and they very much had blood and guts in them. This is a true fact.
It was extensively tested to see if iron was in fact within.
Oh, they were tested. Also, Chaos Terminator Lords.
Yeah.
Worth the points over the regular Lord for one reason, and one reason alone. Combi weapons.
Yeah. That can be like, it's a very small thing, but the difference that it can make plausibly is quite large.
Oh, look, for the way that I use my Lord, the combi weapons are so much better than the plasma pistol.
Oh yeah.
Just so much better. There's goes Zachary playing factory game.
Yeah, I saw it pop up too.
So the way I kitted out my Lord, Terminator Lord, Chaos Undivided. I gave him a combi melter, although future lists will go to just a regular combi bolter.
Yep.
Chain Fist because it's free, might as well. I gave him Spite Spitter, which is an Iron Warrior's relic. Yes. It's either Rapid Fire 1 or Rapid Fire 2, depending on whether you're applying it to like a combi melter or to a combi bolter. So I only had Rapid Fire 1, but obviously I'm changing that in the future to go with just a combi bolter. It'll be Rapid Fire 2 in the future, but have no melter profile. It's Strength 5, AP -3, D3 damage.
Okay.
So that's quite good. And 24-inch range, being a Terminator, always rapid fires as well. So, I mean, for a character that's meant to sit back inside all of my units of Legionaries and stop them from blowing themselves up with plasma, fantastic choice. And if someone does get in close to me, he still has to Chain Fist to hack and slash, which he did have to do. He ended up going into some Centurions and hacking and slashing them up with giving them the good old-fashioned Chain Fist.
Here's the thing: did the Centurions come into him, or did he go and seek them out?
He went into them. I probably could have played it a bit better because they were just mowing down my demons really bad.
They are very good at things like
They
that.
get a lot of shots, and it doesn't matter how good your save is, a lot of shots will get through it eventually.
And they are some beefy boys.
So what I ended up doing, and I probably could have played this a bit better, a bit more strategically, because I charged too many units into them at once. I probably should have just charged the one unit at a time in, and then each time it came around to my turn, had that unit fall back, blasted with the other two, and then charged another one in. Whereas
Yep.
I charged two in, and then had to fall both of them back, and only had one unit to shoot with. Ended up taking him down in the end.
Yep.
But I probably could have played that better by not charging everyone.
In saying that, it does make the game a little bit more fun when you are charging into everyone.
This is true. He mowed down my flesh hounds turn one, which was very disappointing.
And also, honestly, should have been expected.
Yeah.
They're not the tankiest of things, and nor should they be.
No.
But they had a great little wall, just like the Razorwing flocks for Drukhari used to.
I need to run them in squads of 10, I think. 5,
Yeah.
it's not enough.
5 is very not enough.
I'm thinking run them in squads of 10,
Yep.
and just YOLO them into the enemy.
Definitely. If you can start to kind of make them like quite a fleshy little wall, they won't tie things up for long, but probably long enough to back them up.
I reckon in close combat, provided that he didn't fall the Centurions out of close combat, because apparently, and he wasn't aware of this until afterwards, but my whole strategy with, charging in, then falling back and shooting to stop him shooting me, that wouldn't have worked if he'd remembered that Centurions can fall back and still shoot.
Yes.
When they're Ultramarines.
Yes.
Because that's Ultramarines' whole thing, apparently.
It is, yeah.
So
well,
they've
got girly man, so everything's supposed to be tactical.
This is true. So that was fun. The final score was like 76 to 64 or something.
That's pretty tight.
It was pretty close, which is probably embarrassing for me because I'm much more familiar with my army than Chris was with Ultramarines.
But I suppose this also comes back into, this is what we've been talking about for a little while. There's not that much that's actually wrong with the Space Marine book. It definitely has the tools in there to be quite good, given, like, depending the player. Like, I find after watching Battleport or after Battle Report that Space Marines in many different varieties have more than enough tools if they have a capable player that knows what they're doing with them. As we've seen, Blood Angels now being in the top 5%. Actually, they're in the top 4% of the top 5%.
Jeez.
Which should really be saying something. Like, we've seen Blood Angels only 2 weeks ago go 8-0 in a GT. Like, that's
very good.
Yeah. That comes down to the player, but it means that the Codex is very capable.
I think it goes slightly beyond that, though. I think it also comes down to the secondaries that you have to choose from for your faction. Yes. And it's part of the reason Necrons do as well as they do at the moment.
They are scoring points everywhere.
Their secondaries are just good.
Yeah.
And easy to do quickly. So it doesn't matter that if your army gets wiped off the table turn 4, because you've already maxed out your points.
Yeah. You can afford to give your opponent basically a free scoring round. Because it honestly probably won't make the difference if they're played specifically to the mission.
Well, I mean, if you're already maxed out on as many points as you can get, you can't really do any better than that.
Nope.
And all you then need is for your opponent to not max out their points.
And the only thing that you can actually do then once you're maxed out in points is stop your opponent from scoring points. Yeah. Which, let's be honest, there's not a lot of armies or players out there really that are maxing out on points fairly regularly. So this becomes a pretty good thing, and it's probably why we're seeing Necron's pretty high in the rankings still.
Because let's be honest, their codex, just looking at the data sheets in it, is aggressively meh.
Oh yeah, it's hyper average.
I mean, the bulk of their thing is they get back up 30% of the time,
Yeah.
and they have lots of AP.
Yeah.
But then Armor of Contempt comes along, and that's neutered severely. Demons come along, and the AP is meaningless.
Squats come along.
Squats come along and just squat all over everything, and it's just
Well,
gross.
only to 40% at the moment. 47%.
Oh, look, they're gonna get a buff then.
Look, I actually mentioned this on my podcast the other day, reviewing the Meta Monday stuff, and that is going to be quite dangerous. Now, I know a lot of squats players have been talking about they find it hard to score with the leagues. I think this comes down to a lot of actual squat players are brand new. They're not overly seasoned players, which is the direct inverse of what I thought was going to happen. Thinking, the older vets would probably be more into squats, given that they'd be more likely to remember the army originally. So I see a lot of players in the Votan group that are asking, I wouldn't say silly questions, but questions that wouldn't come up if you had played for 5 years, 10 years, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just more interaction based questions, and still asking opinions on, what would this be good going into. So I think that has a lot to do with it. Plus, we've only actually seen the range come out, so we don't know. But like I was saying, it could be extremely dangerous if they continue to underperform and they
then you
get a
get
buff.
Oh yeah, that could be terrifying. Or if the nerfs that got done just after release get undone.
Yeah, or even if they just, I don't think they'll change the unmodified 6 thing for judgment tokens. There was far too much hoo-ha for that. But if they reverse the FAQ on points, they become semi-swarm. You can fit a lot of things. Even now, you can fit a lot of things into 2,000 points of Votan. And to remove that, I remember playing the leaked version of the Codex against Reese, and what I could fit in 2,000 points was ridiculous.
Yeah, you're outnumbered nids.
Yeah, and 3 of my units cost 270 points.
Which is disgusting.
Yeah. Well, and obviously that was the land, the land train, the land fortress. But just then bulk after bulk after bulk of infantry. These things can take 20-man units, and I had 3 of them, plus 15 of their berserkers.
Oh look, it's pretty gross, and it'll be curious to see what they do with it.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing. Back on my game though.
Yes, back to the game.
Back to the game. The other thing that I found that was really, really interesting is just how lethal plague bearers are when you throw a pox bringer in with them.
Oh, that's big support.
Because you throw him in there, you throw the Tome of 1,000 Poxes freaking relic on him. So he gets 2 psychic powers. You give him, I forget the names of them, but one of them boosts the toughness of plague bearers by 1. So then you have toughness 6 plague bearers for when you're marching across the battlefield with your 4-up demon save at ranged. And the other one gives them +1 damage. So the damage 1 weapons then go to damage 2 weapons. And when the Poxbringer is there, 6s to wound then become damage 3.
Yes.
So even if you're into something like Death Guard, you get a couple of 6s on your wound roll, and even with the -1 damage, you're still popping off Plague Marines.
Yeah.
And it shredded the Space Marines so easily. This squad of 10 Plague Bearers and this Poxbringer, they just walked across the table, and turn 5, they were in the back corner chopping up some Hellblasters. Because the Hellblasters got taken down at range down to 1 guy, and there was an apothecary just healing them up. And at that point, he was just using it purely to hold that back objective, as these Poxbringers just walked in. There was nothing he could do to stop them.
Oh, that is a little mean.
So I really like that unit, and I think it suits with Iron Warriors really well because a lot of Iron Warriors stuff is around range, demolishing cannons, obliterators. That's their theme that runs through the army, and it's how
Yeah,
I found it works. The close combat stuff in Iron Warriors, if you want to play close combat, Chaos Space Marines, go get yourself some Khorne Berserkers and play World
yeah,
Eaters. Um, so having that close combat support in there and having the fact that it has those 4-up demon saves at range means that you can get them into combat reliably without having to worry about like deep striking and dropping them in, failing your 9-inch charge and getting blown away. Because I mean you could deep strike them 9 inches away and then go from there, but I found, to be honest, come turn two, if you've marched them forwards, they're 5 inches, advanced on average 3 or 4 inches, and
yeah,
your opponents come towards you a bit and they're going for a middle objective, then you're going to be closer by not deep striking.
yeah. Plus, like when you guys play Tempest almost exclusively now, the difference of having the flexibility and extra toughness in there
Oh yeah,
is pretty big.
oh yeah, they're just a really versatile unit. They're not quick and they're
No.
not super killing in close combat. They're not like 40 attacks or anything stupid. But when you play them right and you stack a couple of buffs on them, they're a really good performing unit.
Well, so that's pretty on brand for Nurgle stuff as a whole. Like they're not fast, they're not super killy, but they're a little harder to take down.
Hmm.
So it's the extension that they have in play that really comes into
Hmm.
play with them.
The only thing they're really vulnerable to is mortal wounds.
Yeah.
So against Thousand Suns, I'd probably have to play much cagier with them, just to avoid having them ripped to bits by psychic powers. But then again, because you got the Poxbringer there, they do have some psychic defense.
Yeah.
And the other great thing about the Tome of a Thousand Poxes, if you roll the most common number to roll on 2d6, the power is undeniable.
Which is hilarious in the game previously to
Yes,
this.
which is very funny, especially when fighting Thousand Suns or Grey Knights. It'd be funny fighting them too.
It would be nice fighting them too, yeah.
But yeah, so that was really fun. I did end up losing one Demolisher cannon that game, which was kind of sad, but shit happens. The other big thing I changed in my list was I'd given the Techno Venom Mecha Tendrils to my
Yep.
Warpsmith. So instead of healing D3 wounds, he heals just flat 3. Because every time I try to heal D3, I roll a 1. Every single time.
It's somehow more likely than not.
So since I just kept screwing that up, I was just like, I'm just going to take that variability out of the equation completely.
Yep.
It cost me 1 CP to take the extra relic, but totally worth it.
Which is fair. Like I know it gets harder in match play to do that, especially with Neff.
Oh, with NEF,
Um
my list is very illegal because in NEF I would be
yeah.
spending 6 CP before the game starts.
But yeah, so as far as tournament play, it's a very, very different outlook on,
Hmm.
how if you would take that over, say, just about anything else. But look, in Tempest or anything pre-Nef, I think that's fucking great to start stacking up on.
Hmm. I'd probably drop the Warlord trait off of my Chaos Lord to fit the list into NEF.
Yep.
So Warlord trait I gave him, again, I can't remember the name of it because I'm really bad with names. But it lets you, it, in your command phase, you select either a Legion Core or Legion Vehicle,
Yep.
and that counts as being in Wanton Destruction for that turn. I'm sure you can see where
Oh
this
yeah.
is going.
I can. Yeah.
So that was fun. Use that to, come turn 2, get Wanton Destruction on one of the Vindicators. Although, because it also affects Core, It's an Iron Warrior specific one if you're looking it up.
I am, yeah.
Architect of Destruction, that's the name of it. Um,
Yep.
so because it also affects core, in turn 4 and 5, when forced into Wanton Slaughter, and I'm no longer getting the exploding sixes on my rapid fire weapons, I was then able to put it on the Legionnaires, so that I'm again getting exploding sixes on my plasma guns again.
Back to how it should be.
And I was like, yes.
How have you found that difference between the old book and the new book? So Wanton basically gives us what we used to have, but divided and kind of specific.
I think it's a really nice mechanic the way it's set out.
To be fair, it had been trialed before with Space Marines.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's basically Space Marine doctrines, but
Yeah.
chaos. I think it's a good way to do it. It means that you can fairly easily predict what you're going to have turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, and so on. And then
Yeah.
there's ways to make it so that you're then having different ones in turns that you normally wouldn't get, which is a nice little bit of flavor there. The biggest difference between this book and the old book has got to be the fact that your Legionnaires have 2 wounds.
Yeah. That
Um,
has made a massive difference
Legionnaires in the old book, they just didn't last. They just
because they didn't
died.
exist.
You just didn't take them. You take cultists.
Yeah.
But in this book, both Legionnaires and cultists play a role. Speaking of cultists, my cursed cultists. Oh, it's such a good unit. Just the rules on it, perfect. The 6+ feel no pain is fantastic, especially when you're getting shot with bolters. So you get a 6+ armor save, then a 6+ feel no pain. Not bad, not bad.
Yep.
The fact that losing the mutants doesn't count towards morale at all, really good. And then the fact that you can get either a torment or 3 mutants back every single turn. So Chris managed to get my unit of Cursed Cultists down to 1 torment.
Yep.
Next turn, torment comes back. Next turn, another torment comes back. And at this rate, he's also killing one off every turn, and then he just keeps coming back. Meanwhile, his numbers are dwindling further and further down as they start killing. Because they also get 2d3 attacks each. So the strength
Yeah.
5, AP -2, 2 damage. And that sort of thing into assault intercessors, very effective. Not assault intercessors, regular intercessors.
Yeah.
It tears them apart, and they're not able to hit back hard enough, butting you with bolt guns to really rip them down. So that works really well. And then you just keep bringing them back. By the end of the game, I had the full squad back.
Yep.
He got it down to 1 guy turn 2, and by the end of the time, I had the full squad back and had them heading over to an objective and killing off a unit of Firstborn that was on it and taking the objective back.
Now they are a really nice unit though.
And for 75 points, I'm almost considering
Yeah.
dropping the regular cultist completely and just taking a cursed.
Yeah, or even doubling up and either running 2 units of them or 1 big unit maxed out of them.
1 big unit maxed out could be fun.
Yeah.
Look, the way I see it, you're talking either if you're just using him for like mortal wound defense, you're talking 50 points gets you 10 wounds.
Yep.
With a cursed, it's 9, 14. So 75 points gets you 14 wounds.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's you're paying a little bit more per wound for them, but there's that built-in mechanic to be getting them back as well.
The other thing that really helps is that they're not counting towards leadership if you take the mutants. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, so if you were to run you can run a big blob without worrying too much, because the first, like, I think the big blob is 6 torments and 10 mutants. So the first 10 wounds that you take don't count towards leadership.
And honestly, you're bringing them back. Like, you can bring D3 mutants back. That's it.
No, you bring 3 back.
Is it flat 3 for mutants? Is it?
It's flat 3 or 1 torment.
Oh, that's even better.
So you're getting 3 wounds worth of stuff back per turn reliably.
Yeah.
Which is very good. Couple that with the fact that they have a close combat attack that hits reasonably well. I mean, not the mutants, obviously,
Yeah,
But the torments, they hit hard.
yeah, yeah. And basically, and honestly, that's what we're taking this unit for. It's the torments.
Hmm.
It's just the fact that they basically have
The
a
mutants are there just to,
fleshy ion shield.
yeah, pretty much. It's fantastic. I love it
Yeah.
so much. Yeah, look, I'm very happy with that at the moment. Making a few twists to my list for next weekend. Hopefully, I'll be able to get Reese to come out for a game because I'd like to try it against something that's not power armor.
Mm. And we know how much Xenos don't have fun into Armor of Contempt.
Oh no! Look, speaking of Xenos, that's a perfect, seamless segue into our next segment, the news.
Well, it
Um,
can't be the army boxes because there was no Xenos.
that's exactly why it's a brilliant segue. Because Army Christmas boxes are out. Well, not out, but announced.
Yep.
And no Xenos. Because if you're Xenos, you can go suck a big one. Obviously.
Thanks, GW.
Thanks, James.
The other thing I want to talk about with the Christmas boxes is the two elephants in the room.
What, you mean the two Primarchs?
No. The Space Marine boxes.
I didn't look too closely at them, to be honest, because one of them was Imperial Fist, and I'm kind of just purging
Yes.
that from my mind.
But that, yeah, no. So Imperial Fist and I think it's and Raven Wing. Raven Guard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But completely different art styles, completely different obviously contents in there. They don't quite add up point wise to be kind of roughly in place. I think that those boxes will be staying.
Really?
I don't know. I have a funny feeling. I have seen a couple of things on the internet, which is the internet, pinch of salt. But there's
All of the salt.
quite a few rumors going around that they've just been kind of announced and they might be sticking around, or we might start seeing kind of more Space Marine themed boxes come out from time to time, in addition to other things, which they used to do. GW used to do that all the time. There's a bunch of Firstborn boxes out there.
Hmm.
And they would come out at all different times. So yeah, no, this is what I'm talking about. So check out. So
Yeah,
usually
I
we
see
only
what you
get the
mean. They're
6.
they're kind of it's very different artwork compared to the other six as well.
Even the contents, like we usually only get 6 boxes per system between like with AOS and 40k,
Hmm.
and then we have these 2 different boxes that are just a little bit different.
They are a little bit.
Yeah, but like check out like the Raven Strike bot. Why is there 2 Invictus war suits in there?
Because everyone needs a Scout Dreadnought or two, apparently.
It's the least stealthy unit to put into Raven Guard.
Because Games Workshop thinks they're funny.
I think we're going to get another apology video from James.
Oh god.
Well, it is nearly Christmas, so he's due to
Look,
pop up soon.
they did thaw him out early just for the Squats release. What I want to
Warranted.
know is who is the Thousand Suns and Death Guard boxes meant to be targeting? Because like
Oh, it's a different one, isn't it?
the others kind of make sense. Like these guys. I suppose that is that a named character in there? Oh, in
Yeah,
Val.
that's Val.
Okay, so it's a named character in each.
Yeah.
So I'd say they're probably targeting trying to get people into a new army just in time for Christmas.
Good chance. Because if you have a look at the contents of the boxes as well, they're like as far as the fashions go, they're armies that are not very high up in the rankings. They're not seeing a lot of sales.
Mm,
Death Guard, obviously, because they were a very, very early codex for 9th. Thousand
yeah.
Suns have made a little bit of a resurgence lately, but obviously these boxes would have been planned well
Oh,
before
these would have
the
been
most
planned
recent tournaments.
6 months ago.
Oh yeah. Raven Guard and Imperial Fist haven't been seen for God knows how long. But yeah, it's I don't know, and especially when you take into consideration AdMech,
Mm.
they have been consistently low on the ranks for quite some time, which obviously means they're pretty low in popularity. They didn't have that much luck with Knights. There was a little bit of hype, and then that just went away very quickly.
Oh,
Uh,
look, knights are a hard sell.
they are.
You can't buy it just, one bit at a time.
Nope.
Everything's so expensive. I'm talking money wise, so expensive. Points
Yeah, yeah,
too,
yeah.
but it's such a hard sell to anyone that's new to the hobby.
Yeah, well, like just look at the Chainbreaker Lance box. Like, so War Dogs are what, 100, somewhere between 100, 150 something for two of the War Dogs.
Oh, look,
So that's already
we have the internet.
somewhere.
Let's have a look.
Um, and then of course you have your main knight, which is going to be your multi kit. So I think that's like 180, 220, something like that.
So the
Your armor
Warden
kit.
Paladin is 185, and then your
Yeah,
armies is a 145 each.
yeah. So instantly there's what, three, almost $500 worth of models.
Yep, it's not cheap.
No. Well, look,
Look,
in
I'm half
I
tempted to
suppose
get it
going out,
actually.
it's not a terrible box if you want knights. Because we all know that these are going to be a little bit cheaper, and then we go to somewhere like Emerald or Gap Games, and they're going to be cheaper again. Like these boxes,
I've been tossing around throwing a knight in with my grey knights for a bit and having,
yeah.
or even maybe if I do it into a chaos knight and throw it in with the Iron Warriors, that'd be fun.
Well, see, here's the thing with like this box specifically. Like you could do both. Like if you wanted to put, a big knight, like if you wanted to put the big knight in with your Grey Knights, and then chuck War Dogs in with your Iron Warriors.
That could be fun.
Yeah. I've got a couple of lists with War Dogs in there, and they fill up a really, really nice little gap. We play very different styles, but for me, they fill a really nice little gap.
Yeah, I'm not sure they'd really serve much purpose for me that much.
Well, see, I'm a Night Lord player, so I have
True.
very little shooting without my obliterators.
I have so much shooting, it's not funny.
Well, say you'd then be looking at the close combat verse, so like the carnivores. That'd be a nice little harassment unit.
Look, I kind of have close combat harassment units though, with the demons, and look, I probably won't actually get any because I'm feeling broke at the moment. Given that I did recently just buy like 1,000 points of demons.
And let it be reflected on the record that previous to this show going live, Jonathan was talking about walking down to Games Workshop tomorrow while he was at work.
Look, we don't mention that. I hope my wife is not watching. Although the reason was because I need more of these. Because let's be honest, Warhammer themed Christmas ornaments are the only Christmas ornaments you should be putting on your tree. And I'm not just saying that because I want you to buy them, so that I get a bigger dividend.
Well, that's how you can explain it to your wife when you go in and get the Knights box. It pays for itself in dividends.
I don't think she'll buy that.
No, but you will, and that's the main thing.
Look, you make a valid point and a convincing argument.
Can you tell which one of us used to own a Warhammer shop?
Not this guy.
Unfortunately, it was me.
It was you, you filthy capitalist. Also, how do we convince Zach to buy the Watches of the Gate?
I think he's actually basically going to be doing it.
Because he doesn't already have enough custodes.
He actually, out of this box, he has. If you swap the 3 Alaris Terminators for bikes, he already owns all of that. It's literally on my desk painted. Jeez. Or unpainted, depending on the video.
Wow.
And plug.
Was Were you all baited by Cal? Is Cal the master of bait? Is Cal a
Probably not.
muff?
Well, to be fair, like, just in case Zach came on tonight or was watching this at some point, check out my background. Throne World is canon.
Oh, look, he is so triggered by that, and I think we're going to have to clip that bit out and send it just to him.
No, you know what I should do? I should go. I
Paint
should go down to a
paint
screen printers,
paint that on
have
the
this
bottom of every
image.
base.
No. I'm going to go to a screen printers. I'm going to get them to tile this image and print me out some wrapping paper. So when I give him his painted army back, this is what he has to go through first.
Oh, please do. That would be very, very entertaining to me.
Although I am thinking about maybe freehanding this scene onto his Vexillus.
I think you have to.
I'm going to give it a go.
I think you definitely have to because that is most amusing to me. Oh, fun. Other news that's going on, other than also, Warhammer socks. I have to get me more of those.
Warhammer socks, yes.
You can never have enough Warhammer socks. It's so weird the things you get excited about when you get old.
It's getting old in general is a bit strange.
This
I
is
got
true.
I was extremely excited as I was coming on because the 50-year
I'm going to
anniversary
clip
of
that
Hey Hey It's
broken
Saturday.
sentence. I'm going to clip that sentence out of context so hard.
we digress.
We digress. But anyway, Space Marines not doing shit at tournaments. Interesting. Leagues of
um,
Votann doing a below average at
sub
tournaments. Surprising.
not only below average but way below expectation.
Oh yeah. Kind of almost makes me feel bad for being one of the people that were like, yeah, don't let them in tournaments till they have an FAQ. They're stupid overpowered. It's like the data sheets and all the combos you can do, yes, they're overpowered from a blow your opponent off the table perspective, but they do struggle to score.
Yes. In saying that, when obviously I've been watching a lot of squat stuff since they've been coming out with battle reports. They do as a whole struggle to score. But if they get the first turn, like, or in the first two turns, they can be aggressively dominant and then slowly score for the rest of the game with not much competition. It looks like the biggest drawback for them, well, not drawback, sorry, but their key play is the first two turns to be hyper aggressive and start really, really knocking the opponent's units out, because they are scoring very, very slowly, but they can do it consistently.
Well, that's the thing.
The difference.
That's actually a pretty good strategy because if you have the capacity to hit your opponent's hyper aggressive turn one and turn two, that sort of hyper aggressiveness is very good at getting in your opponent's head and
Yes,
getting them to forget their game plan.
which is why we're saying a lot of a lot of people are saying that a hard counter for squats at the moment are Harlequin.
Yeah, being so fast,
They're so
don't
fast,
really
and
suffer from that.
with how Harlequin are being played in the meta, which is very, very cagey, they have the speed to stay out of range of anything that they actually want to. All they have to do is, if they can, and they can score very quickly. That's one of Harlequin's big thing. They score very, very quickly in a couple of turns and quite a lot, because they generally don't have staying power. So for squats that need to knock something out very quickly, compared to something like Harlequin that can just avoid for two turns,
True.
that's a huge. In saying this all comes down to the player and if they play them that way.
Oh, look, every army ultimately comes down to the player.
Yeah.
The question is not whether or not the army itself can win even when played badly. It's which army wins when both players play it well.
Yeah. which comes down to a lot of things. Then that really comes down to the dice. Because we see obviously a lot of amazing players kind of come out, and it's one of those things that the dice can betray.
Oh, look, they can, but that's part of what makes someone that's good
Oh
at this
yeah,
game good at this game is the ability to minimize capacity for variance. Um, I mean, a classic example is throwing the Techno Venom Mecha Tendrils onto your Warp Smith so that you're healing a flat 3 instead of D3, so it's reliable.
yeah,
And there's lots of things in this game that allow you to have reliability like
yeah,
that for different things, obviously. So, I mean, that's part of where list building comes into
yeah,
part of the skill is being able to not only identify good combos, but identifies ways to make them reliable, which was
yeah,
actually part of the reason why I made up that nightmare of a spreadsheet. Because I wasn't just interested in what has the highest average output, but what's going to output the most reliably. And I found
yeah,
me picking options that their average output was slightly less, but they were going to hit it every single time.
yeah. And we've seen the reliability in systems like Age of Sigma, where the hit and the wound is predetermined on their war scroll.
Hmm.
So reliability comes down to a big thing because Age of Sigma tactically is played very different from 40k.
Oh, it's a very different game.
Well, yes and no. Um, but definitely yes.
But
But also,
definitely yes.
but, um, but like we're talking about with reliability in bits and pieces, like having the hit and wounds, almost guaranteed.
Hmm.
Depending on if there is like a -1 to hit or wound or anything like that. We see the game played strategically different, as into to what units go where, because they don't have to kind of suss around too much compared to 40k players, where we have quite a few more variables when we start talking strength to toughness.
Well, I mean, 40k has that many variables. It's not funny.
It's really not funny. It's not a good game.
Look, I think it's a fun game, believe it or not. I enjoy most games that I have. The only ones that I don't enjoy are ones when one of two things happens. Either I am destroying my opponent into oblivion, or my opponent is destroying me into oblivion.
I've hated every game I've ever played of 40k.
Wow,
The enjoyable part is afterwards when I get to talk about stupid stuff that's happened.
stupid stuff is fun.
That is the pinnacle for me. This is why I'm in like my 19th year of playing 40k, because
Fair,
I like to talk
fair,
about the stupid things.
fair, fair. Speaking of stupid things, that sounds like an excellent seamless segue over to our favorite segment and everyone's favorite segment of this show, Over Under. So as always, I have the Squats coin right here. You can't see it because Google Meets is trying to delete it from existence. Read into that as you will. So, as
It's
always,
happened 30 years ago.
I flip the coin. If it comes up squats, we're going to be nerfing an overpowered unit, and the overpowered unit we're nerfing is rubrics, because I don't like them and I think they're overpowered. And I have a specific way I think that they should be nerfed. And if it comes up Warhammer, we're talking about an underpowered unit and how we would fix it. And in this case, the Tesseract Vault.
Read into that what you will.
Read into that what you will. So let's see what we've got. Is it going to be squats for the fourth week in a row?
100% success rate.
It is not squats. It is Warhammer. So we will be fixing the Tesseract Vault. So, I should
Give it
probably.
core.
It has core. We already did that. It didn't work.
It gets double core.
It's just look. A lot of its problems is that it is so expensive.
I think so, yeah.
So obviously our fix is 4,000 point games.
I think that for the effectiveness of the vault compared to cost, it should probably be dropped around 100 points.
You reckon down to 300 points?
Honestly, yeah.
You
It doesn't stand up to 400-point units, like other 400-point units in the game.
see, I reckon if they made it if they bumped it up to toughness 8 to start with, because it's only toughness 7, which means melts are
Yeah.
wounding on 3s, which is not great. So they bump up to toughness 8. It becomes a lot more durable against a lot of anti-tank stuff. Because I
Yep.
mean, Space Marines, you can take Eradicators. You can take what's the other one? Hellblasters. So
Yep.
you got lots of strength 8 floating around. Um, so yeah, I reckon bump it up to toughness 8 to start with. In addition to that, it needs some kind of psychic defense. Because in the few games I've played mine, the only times it has actually been taken out in any reasonable time frame has been fighting Thousand Suns, and it's just been spammed with psychic powers. It has 0 defense against them.
No, bullshit. I remember a game that we played when the Elf book came out, and the
But
vote did not
oh
last long
yeah,
at all.
I forgot. I must have blanked that game from my memory. I forgot about that.
So this was a fantastic interaction where I blew up the vault, but everything was huddled around it,
Yeah, and I
and
rolled.
everything
It
took
was either
mortal
an
wounds.
11 or 12 I rolled on the explosion radius.
And it got every single, well, almost every single unit. I think
Look,
there was like a unit of scarabs that didn't get touched.
that wasn't the Vault's fault. That was I'm a dumbass fault, and funneled everything in together. Um, I'm okay with having the large explode. It's a big thing when it goes
Yeah,
down. It should go down hard. Um, it should probably move a bit quicker.
yeah.
8 inches move on its top bracket is not fast enough.
No, not when it is a bracketing unit.
Not when it's a bracketing unit and it needs to get up close to do any sort of real damage.
I'd
Um,
give it 12.
yeah, 12 would be good.
Yeah.
So I reckon movement 12, toughness 8. Uh, look, even if you gave it like a couple of denies to psychic powers or a 5-up shrug to mortal wounds or something like that, because I mean, in the lore, it's meant
Yeah.
to be resistant to psychic bullshit.
That's why it gets a psychic phase that's not actually in the psychic phase.
No, that's true.
Yeah. But look, at least access to a strat to deny
Oh,
would be nice.
a Stratton and I would be good. I reckon they should just give Satan denies.
Look, I wouldn't be against it, to be honest.
I mean, it'd give the whole army some decent psychic defense. Because at the moment, what psychic defense do they have? Tomb spiders. Oh, and the Sarakan Dynasty strat.
Their greatest psychic defense is just bringing things back later.
But they can't bring things back against psychic. That's the thing.
No, they can't, can they? Because
No.
it's, yeah.
Reanimation protocols only affects stuff lost in the shooting and fighting phase. So if you lose stuff in the psychic phase, tough tits.
You know what? Thinking about this, you know what I'd really love to see? So,
Lots of things, I'm sure.
so we have Imperial Knights, we have Chaos Knights. I would like to start seeing a few Titan-based Xenos armies.
I mean, you could run Eldari like that, I suppose.
You can, but it's boring and kind of shit. Like
Well,
you
you can
don't
do
have
that with
the
Imperial
flexibility.
Knights, and it's boring and kind of shit.
Fair. But like when you look at like Chaos Knights, like they have the ability to do some pretty decent stuff in each phase. Like you know, we have Psychic Knights now. We have like they can be fairly choppy, they can be pretty shooty. Bringing something, or at least kind of boosting some stuff up to make that a playable army for Xenos, I think that'd be quite nice. You don't have to do it for every faction, but could you imagine something that was at least playable somewhat? You know, that centered around a knight, not a knight, the Vault being a HQ choice, or something along the way lines of.
Yeah, because that's the other thing that makes the Vault aggressively meh. Being a Lord of War, it's costing your CP to take it. I mean, I get it's the only slot that it really works in.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know. I'd say it in a heavy support, not terribly.
no. It's got to be Lord of War. It's too big otherwise.
Yeah, but when we start talking stats wise, that's what I was saying. Like, if you dropped it to 300 points, or even say, I don't know, 360 points, and made it heavy support.
Well, I reckon they need to put the monolith back in a heavy support because the monolith is Lord of War
Yeah,
at the moment, which feels a little weird.
stupid is the word.
Um, yeah. Look, the vault is ultimately it's too expensive for what it does.
Yes.
Satan powers are cool, and being able to cast 3 of them is really fun. But it's too much to lose if something goes wrong with it. Not if,
And
when
when,
something
yes.
goes wrong with it.
And that's the issue. It either needs a big boost in data sheet or a massive points drop.
Or another thing I just thought of that would be interesting, um, change the living metal rule a little bit.
Ooh,
Because living metal, as it currently stands, you just gain 1 wound in the command phase. On a
yeah,
unit that has 30 wounds,
that's a drop in the ocean.
that's nothing.
Yeah,
As opposed to, on Lich Guard, for example, where it's
yeah,
half of their wounds. Or even on a Lord, where it's, I think they have Overlords have 6 wounds off the top of my head, 5 or 6. The
something like
point,
that.
the point is, on a model with 30 wounds, it's nothing. If they were to change it so that on Titanic models, that it, did either D3, D3 plus 3, regain something. More than 1 is the important bit.
Yeah, so I'd give it D3+1.
D3 plus 1?
Well, it's a minimum of 2, maximum of 4.
Yeah.
That's not bad. It seems kind of in line with a lot of other things as far as regaining points.
I think that would make it last a lot longer.
Yeah,
And it wouldn't be as big of a gamble to take it. Obviously, you're never going to see something like this in competitive play. Just one model costing that many points, it's not going to happen. It's especially given you can't hide it in competitive match play. It's all about
yeah.
being a fucking elf.
Was the never say never with GW. They in 10th edition they may want to sell more vaults and
Maybe,
monolith kits.
maybe. I mean, the monolith did get a really cool kit, and
Yeah.
then I think the only people that bought them were the people that were like, "Hey, that's a really cool model. I want one on my shelf."
And honestly, the vault is amazing. It's a great looking model.
Oh, it's fantastic. And when you magnetize it, you feel like an absolute boss king with really sore fingertips.
30 hours later.
It wasn't quite 30, but that's not entirely wrong.
That was a gigantuan task.
Yes, but I got it done, and I now have a magnetized vault um, thing.
I think the funniest thing would be if in 10th in the new codex they did bring them out, so vaults and monoliths were extremely playable and almost auto takes, and you had to go and buy more, and magnetizing it was completely useless.
That would be funny, and I would enjoy that very much
I
because my
think
dividend would go up.
it pays for themselves.
I mean, the other thing that's wrong with the Vault, though, is Tesla spheres are aggressively meh.
Yeah,
I mean, Assault 4, Strength 7, AP nothing, 1 damage.
which AP nothing is very rare for Necrons.
I mean, sure, throw it in Meph, get in half range, and it's AP 1, but with Armor of Contempt running around, why?
Still nothing.
It's still nothing. I mean, I reckon they needed to make it so it was at least like damage 2.
Yeah,
Damage 2 on the bigger Tesla weapons is what I think they needed. Um,
they
on,
just need to be glancing.
on the Tesla Carbine, I can get damage 1,
Yeah,
fine, but on the bigger ones, it should have been damage 2. Although I guess that's also possible that that's just a result of it being first cab off the rank for the edition.
Which is a good point because, well, actually, no, it's not a good point because,
Yes, it is.
no, it's a terrible point because Necrons are doing better now.
Yeah, but you know why they're doing well.
Yeah, we know why they're doing
It's
well,
not
but what I'm
because their
saying,
data sheets are good. It's because their
no, they're
secondaries are
terrible.
really easy to do.
Yeah, but like what I'm saying is like the army is doing now closer to the end of ninth than they did when they were brought out closer to the beginning of ninth when everybody else basically had an 8th edition book.
True. But then
Which,
again, at that point in time, I got into many an argument with sweaty nerds on the internet who were like, "Oh, Necrons, they're so rubbish," and I'm just like, I don't know what any of you are talking about. I am winning with them a lot,
see that I think that
and we were
that
playing the
definitely
max
comes
play
down to the
mission
player.
packs at the time as well.
But see, I think that does come down to the player a lot. And
Mm,
also uh, what we find fairly often with a new book, units change, your auto takes change
true.
substantially. And like for example, the when the elf book came out, I don't actually have physically uh, a great legal list. Where in 8th I had a fantastic legal list. Um,
I guess that is an advantage that I did have at the beginning of ninth with Necrons. I have
you had the models, yeah.
pretty much all of them.
Yeah. Where like a lot of the other people that probably hadn't been playing for as long as you have, or had the collection that you do, they would have been using older models for units that were based around lists from the previous edition.
Mm.
Um,
Whereas
it-
I've never built my Necrons around just whatever the meta was.
yeah.
I just want all of them. Like all of the special edition Necron Lords and Cryptex have released, I have every single one of them.
And you know why that is?
Because I like the model and I can't help myself.
Dividends.
That too. Um, and they sit on my shelf unpainted because I have not gotten around to painting them yet.
Oh, speaking of unpainted, there's a fantastic segue into something
Oh
uh,
god.
that I was going to bring up in the news.
Oh yeah, we skipped over. Look, let's throw that in real quick. We've got a couple of minutes left.
Yeah. Okay. So, have you seen the debacle between Juan Julio, so JH Miniatures, and Spiky Bits, the ever
Um,
clickbaitable?
I've heard about it. I have avoided it like I avoid Twitter.
So let me give you the quick rundown. So basically, JH Miniatures did a review on the Army Painter Speed Paint, which basically contrast paints.
Yep.
Didn't give a terrible review. He didn't like them personally because they have a reactivation issue.
Oh,
So when
yeah.
he was going,
If they have
yeah,
that issue, that's a valid criticism.
yeah. So what?
Wait, I think I
The,
see where this is going.
so the big issue here that Spiky Bits dived into a little more than probably should have been was the fact that he was actually also working with Vallejo at the time, giving them feedback on their version, the Express paints, which are the contrast paints
Look, can we
from
just
Vallejo.
address the elephant in the room on that real quick
Yes.
before you move on?
Yes.
Contrast is such a better name.
Yeah, but when GW trademark everything they get their hands on, and if they can't get their hands on it, they change entire ranges with
Yes.
names. Hard to keep up with.
Yes, but contrast, speed paint, or quick paint.
Yep, and Express Paint.
Express paint. It's like, it's just like, come on, guys, you're not even trying.
And the trademark gets even better from there because Vallejo and Green Stuff World. So Vallejo own Express Paint globally as a trademark,
Yep.
except for Spain,
Oh.
where Green Stuff World has the trademark for Express Paint.
Oh.
So this has led to a few things on YouTube, a few content creators being demonetized. And yeah, but that's a story for a different day. Yeah, even though they hadn't been.
Oh.
because they were in, one of them specifically was in England doing the review of Green Stuff Vallejo. Green Stuff World then came out and said we own the trademark, and they could provide proof that they owned a trademark, but it was only valid in Spain.
Oh,
So
look,
this poor content creator was demonetized.
I can
and
hear a
quite
bunch of
distraught.
lawyers getting erect from that.
Yes. Also, Twitter. Twitter absolutely slaughtered Green Stuff World. This was like a month or two ago, probably a little bit more, until they reversed it, and they had to contact YouTube and say, "Look, it's fine. Remove the strike from her account."
Why would you throw a strike on for that? I mean, you've got to be very petty to do that.
Yeah, and there was some back and forward as well. But the end of that story, which is not the story I was talking about originally,
Yeah,
the
let's
end of that story
finish that
was
story and get back
Vallejo.
to the actual story.
Yeah, Vallejo actually got in contact with the content creator and said, and not even just Vallejo, but Alexandro, the main guy behind it. It was his dad's dad that created the company. He actually reached out to her personally and said, anything you need, you just let us know. Give me your address. I'm going to send you a big old box of our entire range.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, so he was great behind it. Green Stuff World came out, apologized. So back to JH Miniatures versus Spiky Bits.
Yes.
So JH was working with Vallejo while doing the review on Army Painter.
Yep.
Spiky Bits, of course, found out this and then started to absolutely rip JH a new one, saying that he didn't disclose. Obviously, he was working with Vallejo to sabotage products and customer complacency, that kind of thing. And the article was actually entitled "Vallejo have put a hit out on Army Painter."
What?
So JH had responded on Twitter.
Wait, I just have to check something to see if Spiky Bits got bought out by Murdoch, because that's what it sounds like.
Oh, Spiky Bits is the perfect example of why you should never be your own editor.
Yes.
So Rob Bayer is the guy that wrote the article, and also the one that does everything for Spiky Bits.
Yes, he is Spiky Bits.
Yeah, he's the asshole. So basically he's come out. JH has come out, retorting the whole thing, and then bought out some merch. Where on the front it says JH Miniatures, and on the back it says "Fuck you, Rob." This has sold many shirts, especially from YouTube. Not YouTube, from Twitter.
Yeah.
And then there was a second article from Spiky Bits, a retort to the retort.
Oh,
which then they threw out into the universe that not only did he not disclose that he was working with Vallejo, but he could have also acted in bad faith to Army Painter and send the physical product before release from Army Painter to Vallejo in order for them to get an unfair advantage on the competition. Yeah, this is where the lawyers start to rub their little hands together.
I can hear lawyers getting very excited.
Yeah. So after that, Twitter kind of blew up. It blew up enough that I actually started a Twitter account.
Oh God.
So Heresy for Heretics is on Twitter, ripping Spiky Bits a new one constantly.
I will never be on Twitter because, look, it is just the worst.
Is that because it's very musky now?
No, even before that. Look, Twitter it's just so full of shitheads. It's not funny.
It really is. So anyway, so back to this one. So after the shirts came out, after the second article came out, the backlash for Spiky Bits was massive.
Understandably.
Massive. It hasn't gone legal yet, or not that it's been released to anybody.
Well, I mean, he's effectively making an accusation of industrial sabotage.
Yeah. So basically, the engagement for Spiky Bits has dropped massively. He came out gloating, saying that his the Spiky Bits website sees about 40,000 in traffic a day to their page.
Good for him.
Reddit came out. So Reddit, Warhammer /R have banned all of Spiky Bits'
Really?
accounts, his account and his account specifically. And they mentioned in the banning notice that Rob has said that he sees 40,000 worth of traffic a day. The Reddit tag Warhammer/r sees 400,000 views a day. And
That's like a big one.
3 hours after posting the ban, that comment was then edited again to say that this specific thread has been viewed 46,000 times.
Revenge.
So
well, not
this,
revenge, but whatever the other thing's called.
Karma.
That's the word.
Yeah. So this has been a massive thing, obviously in the miniature world, especially if you're more into painting and that kind of thing, because that's where JH is really well known from. I actually spoke to JH a little bit on Twitter, and ever since this started, he's seen a massive influx in support for him. About 2,000 extra followers a day across different social outlets. Yeah, he's seen a lot of growth, and this is somebody that was already fairly high up there. It's been fantastic to see. This is one of the few times that being part of the majority of a hobby painting or hobby wargaming community hasn't been the most utterly toxic thing that has ever existed.
Yeah, it's been the guy that's come in and tried to, pick a fight, has basically been told by the community to go jump.
Yep. So just about every single Warhammer and miniature YouTuber has made a video about this. I've made 3.
Oh, look, and I suppose we have now as well.
And we have now as well. But this is the good thing, because those videos are actually my most watched videos on YouTube. In the first 12 hours, I got like 180 views on the second one alone. Yeah, like and for my channel specifically, it's still quite small. That was a big chunk. So people were out there looking for this information. It was a big deal. And I'm actually talking to one to try and get him on the show to interview. And
ooh, that'll be a good one.
Oh yeah, and I've got Bitshammer, who's been incredibly outspoken about this as well, and he's a massive advocate for femmarines.
Fair enough.
So he'll be on the show doing his absolute nana.
That'll be fun. Look, speaking of people coming on the show,
yes,
we have some exciting news. I've arranged for Nick Beer from Idic Beer 40k, the silent king of Necron YouTube, will be here on Wargaming Whenever next week.
Next week.
So we'll be starting an hour later to accommodate for the time difference between Australia and the United Kingdom. It should be good to have Nick Beer on to talk Necrons.
And we see what he thinks about Spiky Bits.
Oh, look. I'm hoping this will blow over, because I've never really liked Spiky Bits. And...
Actually, you know what's a great idea? We should ask him next week what he thinks we should do with the Vault.
Ooh, yes.
Somebody that plays them inside and out and has for quite some time now.
Yes, we can talk about... Look, for over under next week, we will do 2 Necron units. So send in your suggestions in the down there bit for 1 overpowered Necron unit and 1 underpowered Necron unit. And we will go with whatever the most popular options are.
Spoilers, both of them are the Vault.
The Vault is both overpowered and underpowered at the same time. Well, look, that's all we got time for, and my internet connection is currently having a bad time. So we will wrap up there. Make sure that you like, subscribe, press the subscribe button, then the real subscribe button, all that jazz. Follow us on Facebook, and whatever happens on Twitch, do the Twitch thing.
Do the Twitch thing.
Do the Twitch thing. And we will see you next time.
Spiky Bits sucks.